Alright, I got a fun one for you now. I've been wanting to film this for quite a time. I've told a number of people. I had a limited edition saw that had the rear handle delete. And I do have one. More specifically, I did not do this to this saw. This saw was given to me because they were done fiddling with it and they just went and bought a new saw. So you can see all the funness of what happens when okay, where's this piece? See, this would go oh, come on. Somewhere. I can't even make it line up now. But anyway, if you're wondering, you can, before I tell you what saw this is, you can make a guess as to what model of, well, obviously it's a Stihl chainsaw. That's kind of goes without saying. So I will, now that you've had your chance to put your guess in the comments. Yes, someone had a very expensive boo-boo. But there's parts here, I guess. I have had this for quite some time. You know, everybody, you know, the 500s, old great chainsaws and whatnot, but stumps, trees, logs, and skidders, it has the same effect to a Stihl 500 chainsaw as it does any other chainsaw. You know, that part's just fine, and then that part you could beat it back out. You wouldn't have to buy a muffler. This part, it's ugly as sin, but you know, you could glue that back together there, and maybe just try and glue that, or just run it as is. You know, yeah, that's a tremendous amount of damage back there. You know, it's just, and with this back piece here missing from the flywheel that keeps the air in around the flywheel, and then of course it does this funky clunk, 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 clunk. Anybody else had a 500i tore down to this point and it does the same funky clunk, clunk, clunk? I don't know, because this is the only 500i I've ever played with. And you know, yeah, it's got some purple to it, so you know, it's been thoroughly used and whatnot. It is technically missing a cooling fin there. That cooling fin is squished down a little bit there. That cooling fin is squished there. I have learned in the past, if you're better off just leaving the cooling fins and running them without trying to bend them straight, because the one time I tried to bend one back straight, it just boing, busted right off the cooling fin. Now, how this thing and this thing, well, I mean, that got hit there, but that's not a pressing issue. You know, that part there, that's all intact. This cover, it's all intact. Well, I mean, other than the chain doing what a chain does to the rubber, but that's fully intact. It could be strapped onto another saw. Air cleaner, yeah, that's junk. It's twisted, mangled, bent. It has literally been bent sideways. This thing, you know, you could probably glue that back in there like that. I didn't get that side clean. Well, it's clean-ish, I'll give it that much. Fuel caps are reusable. This, you know, fuel cap survived. Even though when I took out this fuel cap, it's kind of saying, hello. You know, once that fuel cap came out of there, it ain't never going to go back in there ever again. This thing, you know, I had to put that in a vise, straighten that up, but, you know, this, you know, the PTO side, you know, you got a little crack here. You know, you try to bend that straight, it's just going to break that off. And that's, oh no, it lost a chunk out of here, too. And the spring mechanism, that's all reusable. But, there's no reuse in the flywheel side. The flywheel side would have to be replaced. Oh yeah. Everybody sees the fancy buttons when the saws are fully assembled on the store shelf, but this is actually what is behind the fancy button when you tear it apart. Because it would be, you know, the stop is that way. And that would be, and the hand trigger would be there, so this would have been, it would have set right. It would sit right in there like that. Vroom, 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 vroom. So, if I didn't say it before, I've had this for a while. It was just given to me, and I finally got around to making a little video with it. This thing, this is part of what attaches, well, it would attach on there like that, so that's obviously been twisted around somehow. And this thing, I have seen worse handlebars put back onto a saw, but, you know, that took a hell of a hit. That, you know, see, that would be, well, that would go in there, and that protected the muffler and most of the jug assembly. So, and probably because this was a full wrap saw, this extra reinforcement in here actually helped protect the saw. So technically you wouldn't need to buy another handle, but I am questioning whether this crank, piston, and jug assembly is functional. And I know I would have to have at least one side of the case, and you know, that I don't even know if you can buy that independently from a handle. I mean, maybe you gotta buy another handle to get that part, or just go total redneck and just cut the son of a gun off there. But you know, I don't really want to. I've got one saw already that's a half wrap, and it drives me bonkers. So I really don't want another half wrap saw. because they fall off the skidder real easy when they don't have a full wrap, because this thing will sit down and then that keeps it from falling off the skidder. So this is kind of my show and tell. Oh yeah, this thing. I mean, there's one screw hole there. That's it. The rest of the screw holes are busted off. So you could salvage this spring recoil, part, and so you could buy the piece that all that mounts to. You wouldn't have to buy the recoil assembly, just the part that holds the recoil. But if I replaced the absolute bare minimum, which is basically this piece, and I don't know if that that came out. That's intact. That one doesn't need to go. This, no, you can straighten that. So you got an absolute minimum of one case half. The repairing the my humorous joke as to the rear handle delete, and this part holds the recoil. There's probably a few more things that would need to be replaced, but it gets to the point of, do you buy the better part, of upwards, somewhere between $750 to $1,300 worth of, if you replaced everything, both of the case halves and whatnot, and even if the crank and the jug assembly came out good, you're pushing upwards of $1,300, and the day-to-day price of the saw is what, $1,700, $1,600. I seen it at some shows for sale for like $1,300, because they're in Oregon and there's no sales tax in Oregon, But this is just basically my show and tell out here in the dark, giving my camera light another go. Wouldn't have to replace that. Yeah, it's just fine. And these are universal between, the ones I have wouldn't say stihl on them. They would just be generics, but that's worn down. What did it do to the... No, it didn't. It did not mar the crank. It did not take out the... Because if these suckers on the Husqvarnas, if they wear down like that, the shaft is just a little bit bigger, or at least I think it's a little bit bigger, and the bottom tips of the drive of the chain reach down through these holes, and I can see some, there was definitely wear going on there. So anyway, this is my destructive show and tell of a chainsaw that somebody gave to me, that they basically were sick of it and wanted it gone. So if anybody has a 500i that has been straight gassed, That's basically what I'm looking for. Is I think if I could find a 500i that had been straight gassed, the crank, I'd probably, because of the stress of the impact and whatnot, replacing the bearings would probably be a really good idea. But yeah, finding somebody that has a 500i that's been straight gassed, that's pretty much next to impossible, because most people that go buy a $1,700 saw or anywhere in that neighborhood approaching $2,000, they know better than to not mix oil into the gas, and you don't get straight gas saws like you do in the homeowner stuff. So I think about the only place you might come across would be like a rental fleet, and if somebody had a rental fleet and somebody straight gassed a rental saw. So anyway, that's my show and tell. Hope somebody gets a good laugh out of a chainsaw that had a hot date with a skidder, a stump, and a log. One other option I forgot to mention when I was recording this is if there's somebody that wants this whole shebang, they want a jug assembly and whatnot to do experiments with. I mean, there's enough spare parts and in some of this that I'd be willing to throw the whole shebang. Well, maybe minus this piece, unless you want to hang the thing up on a wall as a decorative thing. I just throw the whole shebang into a flat rate box and come up with a price and send it across the country in a flat rate box to whoever wants it. So anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.